Hello again guys, and welcome back to the next tutorial in the animation phase of the process. Today we're going to talk about transitions. In case anyone doesn't know, a transition is an asset or an animation or just some kind of overlay or alpha that you can use to kind of get from one scene to the next. It could be as simple as a fade. That would be a transition. Or we could do a wipe. So let's dive in and see what we can come up with as a transition. So I'm going to go new composition, transition 1. Transition 1, and we're going to go 1080 by 1920. Perfect. Good thing is about these, we can litter them all throughout the video and they'll continuously be useful to us. So final comps. I'm going to put it in templates. Alex will be able to use these all the time and it will make his job a lot easier. So the best way to do these is with shape layers, I always found. So what I think I'm going to start with is maybe little circles popping up and they're going to just absorb the screen. If we go super basic, we could go white on the screen. We go position, keyframe you from there to here, and as it crosses the screen, that's where our transition would be. That would be what's called a wipe. Let's make this composition a little bit longer because it's not quite as long as you'd like it to be. We want to kind of come up with extensions of that, something that's a little bit more interesting than just a white block going across the screen. I find the best way to do this is with shape layers. So we're going to do kind of like loads of circles popping up and then so dots. I'm going to go add ellipse, and we do need to get our palette because we're going to need a lot of colors for this part of the animation. Scale that down and let's get ourselves an ellipse, and I think I'm going to start by adding the title safe area, and I'll add a group to our shape layer. I'll put the ellipse in the group and I just want to be able to see it to begin with. Really, I just want to be able to see what's going on. Let's move the palette out of the way. I want to be able to see this, and I've lost my guidelines. So just if you lose them, just click this button here. There we go. So that's looking pretty good. So let's just animate that nice and basic. So 0. Maybe we'll do a little pop. So it hits, it overshoots the animation and then just comes back in. So let's just swap the look what that looks like. Sorry, a second. So let's extend these out. See what we're looking at. Oh, obviously we need to add a fill. So let's start with that. Add fill, and let's select one of our brand colors. I like this blue. This blue I think would be nice for us. So that's a little bit slow for me. I'm going to grab my keyframes, and to scale the keyframes about the first keyframe, you're going to hold Alt and you're going to drag. So a little bit more, I think. Great, that's looking pretty good to me. I quite like that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a repeater. A repeater, lovely. That's looking good. And we just need to do this lots and lots of times. So what we're going to do is we're going to add maybe like 10 of these. I'm going to bring our composition. I'm going to start with the circles up here, and let's do 11. I'm going to add another repeater so I can add my vertical repetitions. I'm going to change the X position to 0. I'm going to change the Y position to 100. So we're basically swapping them around. We're going to need a fair few more copies on that one. Maybe we'll like 20. See what 20's saying. 20 looks pretty good. Maybe let's only use the amount we need. So it's 19 is the magic number. I just want to make sure it's about even. There's not too much space at the bottom. There's a bit of space at the bottom, so maybe I'll just bring my contents down a little bit. Beautiful. Okay, so what are we looking at here? These are all animated on this one layer, and that's quite cool. That is quite cool, but we do want a bit of diversity, I think, because it's a bit boring. So I think what we're going to do is we're kind of going to do like a staggered circle pop. So this is fine. Like you could do that, use this, and it will work. So for instance, if I was to now grab my ellipse and drag it out again, we've suddenly got ourselves a nice little transition. So it pops up and then whoop, nice. And I could probably use a wipe to get off of that as well. So now the next image is revealed. But that's not really doing much for me personally. So I want to stagger them. I'm gonna get rid of my repeaters. Get rid of my repeaters. And I'm gonna get rid of this keyframe. And I'm gonna get rid of this keyframe. Get rid of those. I think I'm gonna make my pop a little bit smaller. So go to 50. And this is very simple what I'm about to do, but it will look it'll look a bit complicated just because of how many layers I'm going to need. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate and I'm going to make an expression. And I go to position and I'm going to alt click and I'm going to go open bracket 39, 53, close bracket. And that's not going to do anything. But what I want to look at is my 39. I'm going to go 39 plus open brackets index plus 100. Beautiful. And as you'll see, that has just jumped forward. I don't quite want that. I want to go index minus 1, index times 100. There we go. That's what I'm after. So what I've essentially said, I want the x value of this circle to be worked out by 39, the original position, plus index minus 1, which is the number here, how many layers I've got stacked. So number 1 will be index 1, the second layer will be index 2, third layer will be index 3. So it'll be index 1 minus 1, so it's just the number 0, times 100, again, which is 0, and then 53 on the y coordinate. So nothing has changed there, but if I do this, suddenly, whenever I duplicate, I've now got circles placing themselves equidistant from each other. What I've noticed is that the circle probably doesn't quite go, it's probably a little bit too wide, so I probably don't need 100, I probably need something like, I don't know, 150. So if I duplicate that, see what I'm looking at. Oh, my bad, I went the wrong way, it needs to be 50. Number 50. And that's not quite far enough, so it's probably somewhere in between. So it's obviously 75, isn't it? So obviously 75 is our magic digit. And we could probably work this out a better way by just seeing how big the circle actually is in pixels. Let's make it a nice round number. So it's 50, so it is 50. So that means if I was to duplicate this, there'll be a 25 pixel gap between each of my circles, which is, I think, a good amount. I'm going to undo those again. And the only other thing I want to do is I want to re-add my animation, which I want these circles to grow a little bit bigger. Boom, and then a little pop out. I think I'm going to make it a little bit more, and I'm going to just move this over a little bit. I'm going to make sure there's no change between these keyframes. So I'm going to hold that keyframe. You don't have to do that, but sometimes After Effects gets a little bit confused between spatial animations. So if you want to make sure that once the circle is at that point, it doesn't change again until the new keyframes, it's always good to right click and go toggle hold keyframes. That means it won't change. So let's have a look at that. Boom and out. Fantastic, that works for me. So now all we're going to do is duplicate. All I'm going to do is pre-compose all these layers. So we're going to call this top row. Top row. Beautiful. And now I'm going to do something similar with this. I'm going to shuffle this over a touch. So let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that looks about right. So I'm going to do the same with this. I'm going to go add another expression. So when I duplicate it, it does the same on the Y axis. So I'm going to go Alt, position. I'm going to go 540, 960. And we have to do it with the Y coordinate this time because we're talking about going up and down. So it's 960. It would be open brackets, index minus 1 times, and what was it, 75? It was 75. And then I need to make sure I add my close bracket. Beautiful. And now let's add these all out. Add these all out. Let's see what we're dealing with now. Great. What I can hear you saying is we've pretty much done exactly the same thing as what we did before. Yes, we have, but we can go into these compositions and do something a little bit different. So I'm going to go animation, keyframe assistant, I'm going to sequence layers. I want them to overlap. So what I'm basically going to do, I'm going to offset them in time so the circle grows at different points. So I need to go layer, animation, keyframe assistant, sequence layer, and I'm going to go 4, 0, 2. Oh, that's pretty good. Nice, liking that. Liking that a lot. So now let's see how that looks. Beautiful, that's looking quite cool. And I think we can do the same with this actually. We can sequence these so it looks interesting on the vertical as well. So let's go animation, keyframe assistant, sequence layers, and we're gonna go 4, 0, 2. Looks pretty cool to me. I think I need one more layer just at the bottom. Beautiful. And that looks like a pretty legitimately good transition, if you ask me. I can pre-compose this and call this top and bottom row transition. And I think what I could do, just to make it a little bit spicier, I can add some kind of textures, maybe our background. So now I've got 2 of my transition and 1 of my background. I can make, I can alpha matte that. Looks pretty cool. And then I think I can blend with that. I can blend my background with my transition. So let's go overlay. That could be interesting. Oh, overlay. That doesn't work. Let's do difference. That looks quite cool. I think what I'm going to do is add a drop shadow. A drop shadow to my bottom layer. Let's toggle that on so we can see exactly what we're doing. Let's go full quality because I want to be able to see how this is affecting it. And I want to make it white actually because I think white will be quite cool here. I'm going to make it 100% opacity. And I'm going to make the distance a little bit bigger because now I've added a little bit of extra depth here. This is looking quite cool. I think the best way to do this is we add a red solid underneath just so we can see what we're doing. So we've got a picture as though the red is our video that Alex is going to be transitioning between. Looks pretty good to me. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some time remapping to the entire layer because it's a bit slow for me. I want it to be a bit more like swift. I'm going to make this background a bit specific. So I'm duplicating that background layer in my project. I'm going to rename it. I'm going to call it transition background. Transition background, and I'm going to do, I'm going to hold Alt, I'm going to grab transition background, I'm going to replace it for a regular background. So now I can make changes within this composition and not affect where the background is in other compositions. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some of our brand assets that we've used in the past, just to make the transition a bit more interesting. So I've got my master cutout, I'm going to copy and paste that into transition background. I'm going to sync those, I'm just going to go 100%. So I'm going to go glow, add that on, I'm going to add some radius, and I'm going to down the intensity ever so slightly. Beautiful. And let's see what that's looking like. Nice, I think I'll add my corner pieces as well, because those are quite nice. Let's go transition background, whack my corner pieces in, get rid of the 3D layer. Let's go to 100% on the corner pieces. 100%. And let's align you to the center of the screen. And then let's scale these up to taste. Put my quality back down to quarter because I want to see what I'm working on. I need to make this transition background a little bit smaller. There we go. There we go. It almost looks biblical. And now I'm going to do a wipe, I think, to get away from the kind of transitional screen, I suppose. So I'm going to go to New, Shape Layer, and add a rectangle. I'm going to add a rectangle, and I'm going to add a group. Great, and I put that rectangle in the group, and then I'm going to add a fill. And I won't need my palette back again now, which I apparently have deleted. Keep hold of your palettes for a while, that's useful, because I always end up deleting them and bringing them back in. So there's my palette. We've now got our rectangle, and we're just going to bring it up to so it's out of the composition window. So out of the composition window. And I'm going to get rid of that keyframe, and I'm just going to keyframe it. So it comes all the way down. All the way down. I think we'll mess around with the interpolation on those keyframes because it's a bit, it's not the best. There we go. That's nice. It's got a bit of character. Beautiful. I'm liking that. So I've got Master Sun, and then we got that little wipe. That's going to take us into the next scene. Then we're going to add a few extra rectangles here. So nice. It'd be nice to have some variation. And we're going to use the different colors in our palette. So let's use orange. Let's do another one. Let's do fill. Let's do gray. So we've already got a lot of blue in the other composition. And let's do black just to finish it off. And then I'm just going to press U on that composition. I'm going to make that bigger. I'm just going to scatter these keyframes. So it all happens just kind of at different times. So let's see what that's looking like. Nice. That works pretty well for me. I'm going to bring it in a little bit, see what that looks like. So some of the animations end before others, so it looks a little bit peculiar. So let's just mess around with the keyframes. Yeah, it looks pretty good to me. Looks pretty good to me. So we've got that happening, and then we've got boom into the next thing. And I think, am I going to add some motion blur? Maybe I will. Yeah, it looks a lot nicer. I think I'm going to do the same with, let's see what happens if I put in these layers. Let's add some motion blur. And then same here, add some motion blur. And then let's see what transition looks like now. Yeah, it works for me. So now I just need to cut these transitions because the screen's covered, so it doesn't matter what happens in the background. So that happens, boom. And we've got ourselves a little transition. I'm quite happy with that. I think that looks good. And the last thing I'll do is I'll do what we usually do, is add adjustment layer, and it'll be a posterize time effect. Posterize time. Put that down to 12, and let's see what this looks like. Beautiful. So that is an example of a animated overlay transition. Beautiful. Now I'm going to show you an alpha transition. And these ones are nice and simple. Nice and simple, these ones. I'm going to do like a lightning bolt coming on the screen, and the lightning bolt rips open to reveal the next clip. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go New, Shape Layer. And what you'll notice is that shape layers are really, really very good. You can use these for so many things. There's very rare that I won't use a shape layer in some capacity or another. So what I'm going to do is I'm just do a little squiggle on the screen. Just a little squiggle. And that looks good to me. I've got a shape. We'll get rid of the fill. I don't like the fill. I'm going to add a few more paths to this, to the squiggle. Maybe some branches that come out. We're kind of looking to like sort of create a lightning bolt, but it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be about right. Like it needs to kind of honor the general shape of a lightning bolt. There we go. Looking good. Let's add another path. Let's do one that does both sides. There we go. And I need to go back to this one because it needs to run off the screen. So add, make the thickness a bit bigger. Beautiful. I'm going to change the color because the color is ghastly. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to add, lo and behold, a trim paths. As you can tell, there's a handful of effects that I use pretty much in every animation. We're just going to animate from 0% to 100%. So that would just be, yeah, the animation taking place, just drawing itself on. Nice. That's good to me. It needs to be a little bit faster, but that's about right, I think. That's about what I want. So I'm going to press F9, and I'm going to just see how that comes on. Nice. Perfect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add turbulent displace. And this is where I can kind of really make a cool effect. So let's get rid of that so I can see what I'm doing. Now that's looking quite cool already. So I've just whacked the intensity up to like 11. So let's mess around with the size. It's looking pretty cool. I think the complexity is maybe a little bit too much. And let's add an amount. So, boom. Yeah, I think it does need some evolution actually. So, time times 500. Let's just make it really over the top. Douche. There we go, that's quite cool. And I'm going to go back to my shape layer, and I'm going to animate the stroke. I'm going to animate the stroke width from that to, I say, that. Let's really make it nice and big. Beautiful. The sound effects are optional when you're editing, by the way, but very much encouraged. So we're going to do this again, I think. So we're going to call this, rename, white or alpha. I think we're going to duplicate it, and we're going to offset the bottom one, or offset the top one, sorry. And we're going to call this bottom one yellow. So now let's go to our shape layer, our bottom one, and let's go to contents, let's go to stroke. I'm going to change this to our brand yellow. Now I'm going to just pick that color. Nice, like that a lot. So let's get rid of our palette now, because we don't, oh, let's keep our palette, but let's mute it. So we've got ourselves a, that looks pretty cool. I like what's going on there. So now all I'm going to do is add a glow, because glows are always cool, especially for lightning. I'm going to add a bit of extra radius and some intensity. Just mess around with the threshold and stuff, so I think that looks quite cool. Yeah, like that. And I'm going to add a new adjustment layer. I'm going to add posterized time again. And I'm going to put that down to 12. Let's see what we're looking at. So that looks good to me. Let me just make sure this shape layer, the stroke, is perfectly white. That's quite important. It needs to be definitely perfectly white. I think I'm going to just take in these keyframes a second. Just make sure, just so the whole thing's just a little bit faster, because it is a transition. It doesn't need to be too over the top. Nice. So that's what we need for the alpha, and Alex will show you how to place that so it works within your Premiere sequence and reveals your next clip.